You've been more tax resisting for 27 years. And the worst case scenario that you've gotten is a very like overly threatening, empty threat IRS letter several times. You know? Lincoln, thank you so much for taking time to be with us today and share your immense and invaluable knowledge. Would you like to share a little bit about yourself and the organization?
Sure. Thank you. It's happy to be here, Jazz. And yeah, my name's Lincoln Rice. I'm with the National War Tax Resistance Coordinating Committee, which we often just refer to as NUTRIC or NUTRAC for short. And I've been a war tax resistor since 1998. A little,
Wow.
so a little while. Shortly before that, I got my undergraduate degree in accounting, and as I often say when I'm giving 101s, like nothing, almost nothing that I'll share about during an introduction or probably even today will be anything I learned when I was getting my degree in accounting. Like they never cover like what if someone comes to you, a client, and says like I don't want to pay, what'll happen to me? Like if I'd really gone into the I never went into the tax preparation world, but if I had, I would have not known what the answer was. But it's really from being a part of a movement that's been around for decades and decades of experience, and people that began as war tax resistors back when the IRS was a lot more active and had a lot more resources than they do today. So yeah, and then in 2000, so I've been involved with Nutric over the years since 1998. And then in 2018, they were looking for a new coordinator, and that's when I came on as their coordinator. So
Wow. Well, that's amazing. So, I've been really, really pushing this tax strike resistance online, and the number one comment is, how do we know this is going to work? So, I was really excited to have you on because you and many people in your within your organization and your followers have been longtime tax resistors. So, I wanted to share with people that it actually is doable. Not only is it doable, not only is it a long-term solution, but there are so many people that are doing it. Would you like to speak on your personal experience being a longtime tax resistor or some people within your organization that are?
sure. And so I should maybe also note that new trick or new track, our main purpose is to be around as a resource. Our website is huge. It can be found at NWTRCC.org, or you can just Google war tax resistance. It'll be the first thing that comes up. And, it's hard to say how many war tax resistors there are because anyone can just go to our website. As I mentioned, it's just there's so many resources there, and you can kind of, people could figure it out on their own from the resources there. And our website, so that maybe the website is our best way to measure interest, where before the invasion of Gaza, is pretty standard that every single year we'd have about 40,000 unique visitors to our website. So that's on an
Wow.
annual basis. And this past January, we had 120,000 unique visitors in a single month. Uh,
Wow. That's amazing. Yeah, I know I'm in correspondence with a woman on Instagram in my messages, who was telling me that she's 8 years deep and she's been successfully exempt. Well, not like specifically she put exempt on her W-4, but she has been exempt from federal taxes for 8 years. And what she was telling me, and she is a longtime follower of you and your organization, and she was telling me that yes, it does take work and it does take some strategy, but it's doable. And she told me she hasn't gotten audited in the last 8 years. So, do you how long have you been tax exempt and can you speak on the fact that it is doable for a kind of a foreseeable amount of time?
sure. So, yeah, since 19 for tax year 1998, so in spring of 99, that was the first year that I resisted some, well, all of my taxes, a smaller amount than I do now because I wasn't making that much back then.
Right.
Or at least significantly less than now, just out of college. And uh, really, I could think there's been maybe 3 or 4 occasions where the IRS has collected some money, and maybe 3 of those occasions were because I accidentally overpaid my state. I'm in Wisconsin, and we have state income taxes, and I overpaid
Uh-huh.
by accident. So they've taken, a few $100 here and there from when I overpaid, and then this is more ancient history back during W. Bush's, um, time. Yeah, and all that time, I've never been garnished, and actually
Wow.
getting audited would be extremely rare for a war tax resistor, because most war tax resistors, if they file accurately, and
Mhm.
at least
Okay.
we recommend you file accurately because if you file inaccurately, it's considered fraud. We recommend you file accurately, and because of that,
Oh, okay.
uh, the auditing apparatus of the IRS, it's an algorithm that just looks at, do we think your tax form is inaccurate? So non-payment of taxes doesn't affect the algorithm. It doesn't make you more likely to be audited.
Oh, wow. Okay. So, like me, that's really good information. I mean, I've already checked the exempt box for this year, but moving forward next year, you're saying it's a better idea if I don't say that I'm exempt, but instead I claim the full tax deduction because that is less of a red flag um
Oh,
in the algorithm. I mean, do you want to
or
like kind of
and
step by step describe the no war tax
yeah,
resistance method?
I think the last person who actually went to jail for war tax resistance, they weren't aware of us, and it was in 2014, and they
Mhm.
had stole some property, and they didn't put it on their taxes, which should have been
Mm.
capital gains. They didn't think it'd be reported to the IRS, and the IRS found out about it. So when we say, yeah, file accurately, because
In
the
April.
in April. The
Okay.
W-4 form that you are referencing that, controls your withholding, that's a
Mhm.
IRS created form, but it
Right.
normally the IRS will never even know what's on it. It's just something
Oh,
that's
okay.
it's meant to be used between you and your employer. And so, we have some videos on our website and on our YouTube channel for like how to fill out that form. And there's, as you mentioned, there's a lot of people that it's other folks on the internet kind of promoting a tax right saying just mark the exempt box. And we've been
Mhm.
at least advocating or recommending that if you're going to do that, if you want to stop payment of federal income taxes, or if you want to stop the withholding from your paycheck as an employee, there's kind of a formula that you can do. Kind of the simple formula is you take what you're going to make during the year, subtract
Mhm.
what your standard deduction would be based on your filing status. So if you're single, it's about $16,000. And then
Mhm.
if you put that amount on line 4B deductions of the W-4 form and give that to your employer, it'll result in you having zero taxes taken out of your tax form, taken out of your paycheck. But
Right.
for those who mark the exempt box, there's an extra statement there that you're agreeing that you didn't owe federal income taxes last year. And
Mhm.
granted, uh, we don't know of anyone that's actually been prosecuted for this, but we know it's a different time. And again,
Yeah.
the IRS would usually never see the W-4 form, but if an employer flagged it and thought it was strange and did report it to the IRS, yeah, we're not recommending people mark the exempt box.
Okay.
Um,
So if I'm a first time tax resistor and I am kind of looking for maybe the best step by step you might be able to possibly provide with us, can you describe what that would look like?
Sure. So it can be the first step is the W-4 is a form that if you're an employee, that'd be kind of your first step. You'd need to update your W-4, which you can do at any time. But if you're self-employed, it's actually much easier. Self-employed people, they don't have to fill out any form. The work that they do, they always get paid the entire sum, whether they're doing work like a carpenter for just a regular household family, or they could be a graphic designer working for a business
Mhm.
as an independent contractor. They'll just get the whole amount and they're supposed to pay in quarterly.
Okay, so I'm going to give two scenarios. I'm a W-4. Scenario one, you're a W-4, right? If you are a W-4 employee, you are also a W-2 employee. A lot of people are confused and think those are two separate filing statuses, but they're not. So a W-4 is And a W-2 is between, as you said, you and your employer. You fill out the W-4, your employer gives you a W-2 of your earnings based on the W-4 that you fill out. So just wanted to clear that up. So I'm a W-4. I want to go war tax resistance this year. I don't want to pay federal taxes. So I fill, and I'm going to like add like an overlay too of the form so people can see it. So I fill out the steps, and then when I get to step 4, and I'm in the deductions section, and I'm a single filer, then I would write the full 16,000 or whatever it is in the deductions. That's 4C or 4D, I believe, right? Or if
Uh,
I'm married, I write 32,000.
so if you're going to make, let's say, I don't know, $40,000 for the year, again, you don't write that on the form, but the payroll system knows that because they're paying you all the time. So you do 40,000 minus 16 is $24,000. So
So that's what I write.
that's what you'd
Okay,
put
so
on.
I take my yearly salary, or for people who are hourly and have a different, income every month, an average, and I deduct what the deduction would be if I was single or married, and that's what I write in the deduction section, is my salary yearly minus the standard deduction. So that's what
Yeah.
I write.
Yep.
Okay, so there's, as we talked about before, there's people who are like, I don't care if I get in trouble. I don't care about the
Mhm.
legalities. I'm just going to check the exempt box. Or people who have already checked the exempt box but want to do it more properly next year. And then there's the way where um, instead of checking the exempt box, you write in the deduction spot your salary minus your standard deduction. And that's what you fill out. And that's what essentially you'd want to turn in for the federal section, right?
Yes. Though
Oh, got it.
yeah,
Okay.
I'll make the
Cool. That's
caveat.
that's
Yeah.
so easy. Like, they make it so complicated, and it's really not that complicated of a process.
It's not complicated. That's why we're like, just do a little bit of math. You don't need to check the exempt box.
Yeah. Okay.
It does get slightly more complicated if you do have hours that go up and down. Then
Mhm.
you want to, because the computer, when you're working more hours, it'll wrongly think that you work more hours all year round. It doesn't actually
Mm.
it doesn't look at the rest of the year. So if, let's say, just to make it simpler for our case, let's say you get paid once a month, and the most that you get paid in any month would be, let's say, $2,000 to keep it simple again. Like maybe some
Okay.
months you only get paid 500, but some months you get
Mhm.
paid 2,000. You'd say, well, I know that during the year, my highest pay period will be 2,000. I get paid 12 times a year. So that'd be 24,000. So you'd want it in the
Mhm.
math, you'd want to put down your yearly income as 24,000, even if it's
Okay.
much higher than you would normally make during the year. That'd be the only way to make sure that the times that you're making more, that they still don't take
Mm.
something out.
If I'm tax striking as a 1099, do I even fill out that tax form, or do I just not fill it out and stop sending in money? Like, what does that look like for a self-employed person as far as actually filling out the tax form?
Yeah, there's no form to fill out. You're just supposed
Okay.
to send in the money. Some people send it in electronically, so
Mhm.
I'm been self-employed now for about 8 years, so
Mhm.
I've always just done paper. I'm a real paper person, just partially because I know it causes the IRS a lot more work. Like if it's
Mhm.
just if you're dealing with them electronically, it takes them a fraction of a second. Anytime you mail anything to them, it's like now they need to scan stuff. Now they need to, it's a whole process. And so I know uh, I'll send in a money order. I don't send in a check because even though they really haven't had the resources to like levy bank accounts and that sort of thing, if you send in a payment from your own bank account or credit union account, well, then at least they'll have on file where they could take it from if they get around to it. So I always get a money
Oh,
order from the post office,
that's smart. So
and
then
then
that leads me.
mm, oh,
Sorry, go ahead.
then I mail it in, but I send in just the amount for Social Security and Medicare.
That's smart. If you don't pay electronically, they don't have a routing and an account number to potentially level your bank account. So that leads me into my next question. What can I do to reduce my tax liability throughout the year? Is that a part of the
Mhm.
NWTRCC method? And what are the consequences of tax striking and what can I do to reduce those consequences? Is reducing my tax liability throughout the year part of that?
It can be. It depends on the person. Like there are, we have on our website under resources, we have,
Mhm.
I think the first option is pamphlets. And the fourth, we have 8 different pamphlets on 8 different topics. Either it's number 4 or 5 is on simple living or low income.
Mhm.
And grant that it's our most popular resource that gets downloaded, actually.
I am a W-4. I have taken my annual salary or an average of highballing average. I've deducted the standard deduction that I can take, and I've put that amount in the section for deductions. Again, like I said, there's some people out there who want to go the exempt route. That's up to you. This podcast is not legal or tax or financial advice. This is just giving you information. Then I have made the decision like I'm going to look into as many tax deductibles as possible throughout the year for my individual case. And then so now we're working on that, right? Since we submitted our W-4 to filing season April 2027. Um I know you have a lot of resources on potential consequences and how to avoid those on your website. I've researched those very in depth. I've made my own videos about it on social media. Do you want to speak to some of the potential okay, so here's a thing that I'm running into quite a bit is people are number one fears they're going to go to jail. And or they're going to within like a month of submitting the W-4 or not paying their 1099 quarterly, they're going to get all their assets seized, their bank account levied. Do you want to speak on the potential consequences, realistically what they might be and how we could possibly avoid those?
Yeah, so a great question that is I'm sure a lot of people are thinking about. And so going back to the situation where, the April 15th time when people file their taxes, the only time in the last essentially 30 years plus that anyone has faced any jail time as a war tax resistor is when it's come time to file their taxes, their 1040 forms, and they lie about their income or take deductions that they're not supposed to take. Um,
Mhm.
so that, that's something. There are people that we know that do that, but we would just caution people, like, make sure you know what you're getting into because you're choosing a method of resistance that there's a chance you could, fall under, not be noticed. But if you are noticed, you could become one of those people that ends up doing some jail time and is criminally prosecuted. So the IRS, it does have like basically kind of two umbrella divisions. One is the criminal division, which war tax resistors usually never hear from. The
Mhm.
other is the civil division, and they're the ones that will send you letters saying, "Hey, you didn't pay," and like, or we might try to levy a bank account or garnish wages. So all the collection aspect of it is not the criminal department. That's kind of just
Oh.
them. It's what they call the civil department, and so that's the department that most war tax resistors deal with. And as I stated earlier, and if you owe less than 25,000, um, well, for sure you'll get letters. It doesn't matter if you resist $1 or a million. You basically get almost all the same computer generated letters. It's just
Mhm.
automatic. Um, Depending on if you e-file or paper file, you'll get your first letter anywhere from like a couple months to like 4 or 5 months normally.
But they're not
And
gonna immediately throw you in jail.
no, no, and they
Okay.
wouldn't be immediately taking anything from, like, property-wise.
I mean, I feel like if you are, filing, honestly, as a tax resistor, like you're not gonna go to jail, period. Like it's not everyone's like, "Oh, Wesley Snipes." I'm like, first of all, that was intentional lying about what they actually made through the year, and he was embezzling money and purposely tax evading. Like you were not falling under that category, and you're not a
Yeah,
multi-million-dollar celebrity, probably.
he
So,
filed his tax forms in such a way he took tax credits that he was not entitled to and had the
right, which
federal
is
government.
fraud. Yeah,
Yeah, and had the federal government pay him millions of dollars
yeah.
for tax credits he didn't qualify for, so it was
And
extra
nobody
bad.
Yeah, and nobody who's doing war tax resistance is committing fraud. if
Not
you
normally.
know, do it properly.
Yeah,
I mean, you
yeah,
can if you want, that's your choice. Again, this is not legal or tax advice, but,
yeah.
you know, there are safe ways to do this, and you're not gonna go to jail.
So usually within 6 months to a year, it'll end up depending on the letters, why some come out earlier and some later, I don't know. But either your second letter or it could end up being your fourth letter would be
Uh-huh.
IRS notice CP 504, which is the number one reason that people call me when they get a letter. It's the scariest letter you'll get.
Okay.
And it says if you don't pay your tax debt within the next 30 days, and then it lists this whole even if you don't qualify for certain things, it'll say, like, "We could take your home, we'll take your bank account, we'll garnish your
Right,
wages."
they try to lie a little bit to scare you. Yeah.
We'll take your passport, we'll
Yeah,
and
that's
and and basically, it's a letter that they're required by law to send if they wanna have the option of doing all any of those things in the future. So by sending that letter, they now could do those things after 30 days, but I've been receiving one of those letters for, like, almost the last 27 years, is it? It was a and,
so yeah,
other than losing some
so
state
this
refunds, it hasn't happened.
yeah, okay, that's what I'm saying. This is why I wanted you on as a guest, as an a testament. You've been more tax resisting for 27 years. And the worst case scenario that you've gotten is a very like overly threatening, empty threat IRS letter several times, you know? And you've dealt with it. Like, this is what I want people to know is the IRS and the government is perpetuating this false narrative of like all these horrible consequences that can happen to you. And realistically, it's just not going to happen. And I have like, let me tell you, I can count on my two hands the number of times that I've gotten comments on social media where someone's been like, well, my cousin owed $50,000 and they took all his assets. It's like, okay, well, what did his filing look like on his W 4 or whatever? And they're like, oh, well, he just said that he didn't make any income. I'm like, okay, well, that's why. That's tax evasion. Being honest about your income and claiming the full deduction so the government doesn't take money out of your paycheck is not technically lying and it's not fraud. Your cousin went to jail because they tax evaded on purpose. Or tax resistance is not intentional tax evasion or fraud. And that's what I keep trying to tell people. And that's why I was so excited to have you on as a guest to like talk to us about that.
Yeah, yeah. So yeah, relatively speaking, I think the big thing that really I think most people are concerned about with war tax resistance that is a real thing. And we go through this when we have our 101s, which again, if people go to our website, not only is there a lot of information, but on our main page, there's about a 28-minute 101 that goes through kind of everything and all the risks and all of that stuff. And
Wow,
the one
cool.
that is a big deal for people who maybe make a bit more money is that once you owe $64,000, you this law went into effect in 2018 that once you owe $64,000, you won't be able to renew your passport or get a new one. So that is like obviously some people either need to leave the country for family or
Right.
work or just want to have the option to leave the country at some point. So we do know some higher income resistors these last few years have decided to pay maybe a lot of what they owe, but maybe only resist $3,000 because they know even with interest and penalties,
Mhm.
they would never reach that amount even if they don't pay year after year. So it is, and that amount goes up with inflation every year. Just for this
Mhm.
year, 64,000. Next year, it'll go up like 2 or 3,000. So it'll keep going up
Mm.
also.
And, you know, if that's a choice you make to like not be able to have your passport renewed for the sake of not funding war, I mean, to me, that sounds like a pretty reasonable sacrifice. I mean, that's just me though.
Yeah, so we just wanna let people know so they can make the decision because we definitely know people in our network that, they reached that amount and they've let us know that within a few months, they did get a letter from the IRS stating that
Mhm.
the State Department had been notified not to allow them to renew their passport. They can continue using the one that they have till it expires. So, but it can be a decision on a, more of a case by case basis depending on someone's comfort level.
Mhm. Okay, yeah. Um man, that I mean, I have like totally done your website and I totally missed all these amazing resources still. Like your website is such a wealth of invaluable information and like you said, people have been doing this for years. It is possible. It is totally plausible and easy. Maybe not easy, but it's totally reasonable to deal with the potential consequences. The consequences, if you are not intentionally lying, um, are actually like not that bad and totally manageable. Do you want to speak on a little bit more in depth on some of the resources in your website for people who are interested in joining this movement?
Sure, sure. So, um, there's, as I already mentioned, there, if you scroll down a little bit, there's the 101 video. Right before the 101 video, there's a list of upcoming events. And so we often, maybe on a monthly basis, but sometimes more, you might be having a 101 that's on Zoom. There's also a link there for kind of a full list of local events. And so if there's a local group having an event, it'll be listed there. Probably more, the more active.
Fun.
Yeah, so there definitely been people in the Portland, Oregon area, New York City that they probably regularly have 101s, but there are groups in different parts of the country that'll offer them from time to time. There's under the About Us tab at the top, the last option is local contacts and counselors. And if
Oh,
people
that's great. People have been asking me, like, is there someone who can help me with this locally? And that is a great resource. So if you're listening or you're watching, check out the website. It's in the description below to find some local resources near you. Invaluable knowledge will really help you. Please, please check it out. I'm sorry, Lincoln, continue. I'm just
Sure,
excited.
sure. No problem, thank you. On almost any page of the website you'll be on, I don't not sure about on how it works on the phone. I'm mostly on my computer. But on the
Same.
right, yeah, on the right-hand column of the computer screen, you can sign up for emails. We have a blog that goes out about every week or two with different
Hmm.
sort of topics, but I would, especially if people want to stay up to date with stuff, encourage people. There's another box you can check that's for the newsletter that goes out. You'll get about 12 emails a year. The newsletter, it goes out 6 times a year, and it'll always have, like, if we do hear like, oh, the IRS is starting up collections more, we would have like, well, what part of the country and what type, how long have they been doing this? And we'd have that information there, and we'll cover stories of, if there are any changes in the tax code that we think might affect war tax resistors. And so it's just a great resource, and reports of local groups and what they're up to. So
Oh,
it's a great way
nice.
to keep up to date. And so they can just check that. And, again, we just work on donations. So there's also a donation button, but otherwise, just to let people know, we're not trying to sell anything to you, no matter what, where you're at financially. If this is something you're interested in, everyone is welcome to please come and check out our website.
That's great. I can't express how appreciative I am for the whole No War Tax Resistance Coordinating Committee movement, for people like you that are helping people get educated about their rights, stand up for themselves, take our power back. I feel like I have been feeling so helpless, my whole adult life until I started war tax resisting last year, and I just feel so empowered. And the information that you're providing here and on your website and on your social media is really empowering people like me. Do you want to tell everyone where they can find you on social media? And again, I'll link those in the description below. But why don't you tell us a little bit about where we can find No War Tax Resistance Coordinating Committee?
Yeah, so on social media, probably maybe the most active place we are is on Instagram, and there our handle is all one word, War Tax Resistor. And so for our social media, it's always war. That's always our handle, War Tax Resistor. We're
Oh,
also
got it.
still on Twitter a little bit, and
Yeah.
we post videos on TikTok every once in a while. Early on, maybe a couple years ago, we were really getting a lot of traction there, and the algorithm was working great. But um, I think we're experimenting with scrolled up, so that's very new. But Instagram, I'd say, especially, if you're a social media person, you're an Instagram person, follow us there, because anytime we're going to have an event coming up that's online, especially, we'll always have the information posted there.
Awesome. Well, thank you again. And I hopefully will have you back on as a returning guest. Fingers crossed. Thank you again, Lincoln. It was amazing to meet you. And thank you for your invaluable information. Thank you for empowering the people of the United States and everything that you and your organization does.
Thank you, Jazz. It's a pleasure.